Is God a waymaker? Yeah, pretty much. Glory be to God. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to, pretty much a show where I talk about anything, everything, and nothing for about 10 minutes every single Monday. This is also a vlog channel, so please watch my vlogs. I have 200 and something vlogs on this channel. 2 seasons, different vibes, but still the same good quality content. And I would appreciate it if you watch some of those, if not all. And I would also appreciate it if you subscribe. That would mean a lot to me because I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So God is a waymaker, but let me read you this quote that I saw on yesterday. Actually, I saw a quote yesterday that pretty much changed the way, well, it didn't change, but it summed up how I've been feeling lately. It says, God is the waymaker, but remember, we don't get to determine the way that he makes. That literally, when I saw that yesterday, it just sat on my spirit so well, I guess you could say. Like, as when I read it, I was like, dog, that sums up exactly how I've been feeling. So let me explain. So, as you all know, if you watched the podcast before this, I deleted my Facebook, right? And then I was reading the Bible. I fell asleep. God gave me a dream. I asked God to interpret the dream, and he basically was like, I didn't tell you to delete your Facebook. That was a decision that you made, right? So I'm like, oh. So I got back on Facebook. For the previous podcast, I was saying I had not got on Facebook yet, but I shortly got back on. I re-signed in, I guess. It hadn't fully deleted, so I'm back on Facebook. But something that I learned in this process of deleting my Facebook and getting back on it is a lot of times the situation needs to change, right? But there's times where we need to change in the situation. So a little backstory about me and social media. Like, I really hate social media. A lot of people say hate is a strong word, but I can honestly say I really, really strongly dislike social media. But there was a time, I'm saying a lot because I'm trying to think and talk at the same time. But in high school, the first social media website I ever had was MySpace, right? So I can kind of say I was a little bit of a late bloomer because there were some things before MySpace, but MySpace was the first social media site that I had. And my sister actually made it for me because, she was up on the wave and I was not. So she was like, we got to make you a MySpace. That's what everybody is doing right now. So she made me a MySpace page, and then I ended up falling in love with it because it was creative. It was a way to talk to people, and it was just fun. And she was right. It definitely was the wave. I know there were plenty of I don't know about plenty, but there were social media's sites before MySpace. But MySpace, in my mind, is what popped it off. And then, of course, after MySpace, it went to Facebook, then it went to Twitter, then it went to Instagram, Snapchat, and all this kind of stuff. But in the span of having all of these sites, I have had a love-hate relationship with all of them. Facebook, before Facebook is what it is now, Facebook was like a very basic, like, you only go on there just to see like how everybody's doing or whatever. But this was in college, by the way. In college, I didn't get Facebook until college, but when I was in college and I had Facebook was just a way to keep up with everybody on campus. And like, if there's somebody who you wanted to meet, you would go on Facebook, send them a friend request, tell them like, I see you around campus a lot, stuff like that, right? Twitter was my jam. I used to be on Twitter all the time. I used to vent on Twitter. I used to meet people on Twitter. I used to tell jokes on Twitter. I used to preach on Twitter towards the end before I deleted it. But what on earth? But yeah, I used to do a lot of stuff on Twitter. I used to love Twitter, and then when I got introduced to Instagram became my jam. So between Instagram and Twitter, I used to just be on those sites all the time. Wake up in the morning, get on Instagram, get on Twitter before I even get out of bed, before I even read the Bible and all this kind of stuff. So I started learning that it was a problem because I was spending so much time on these doggone websites, and it was taken away from my relationship with God, right? So something happened in my life where it was just like, I need to get rid of this site. And so I deleted Twitter. I deleted my Instagram. I kept Facebook because I've never really liked Facebook like as a social media site. Like I've never been addicted to Facebook, but I can say I was addicted to Twitter. I was addicted to Instagram or whatever. So I deleted them. And then my life was straight. You know what I'm saying? And then before that, there's so much that goes into this, and I'm realizing it now that I'm speaking of it. But there was another time where I fasted from social. Before I deleted it, I fasted from it for a month. I was gone for like 30 days. I just really had to get myself together. I didn't get on Facebook or any social networks or anything like that, because first shout out goes to God, because without God, nothing is possible. Nothing at all. A few 30 days, I've really realized how much He's been blessing me. You know, He's really blessed me a lot. And then after that fast, it was like, man, life is so much better without it. And then a few months later, I ended up deleting them. And then, so for the longest, I've had this back and forth with Facebook, and I promise you, this story is leading somewhere. But for the longest, I've had a back and forth with social media, and I've always thought deleting it would be the solution to my problems or whatever. But this most recent time, when I deleted my Facebook, I was like, I'm deleting this for good. And I already don't have a personal Instagram. I don't have a personal Twitter anymore. So Facebook would be the last thing that I have. So I was thinking, you know what? I'm done with this. I've been dealing with this for so long in my life. I've had this love-hate relationship with it for so long that I'm going to delete it now. So I deleted it. And for 7 days without it, it's kind of like God was showing me, like, no, deleting it is not going to solve your problems. There is something inside of you that needs to be fixed. And so, like, that hit me like, oh, snap. Like, for real? So, like, for these last few days, God has been showing me that it is me that needs to change, not the situation that I'm in. You know what I'm saying? Like, God has blessed us and God has positioned us in places where we need to be. And God is trying to get us to where we need to be, and we're supposed to follow Him to that place that He has set up for us. But in order for us to get to where He wants us to be, we have to be who He wants us to be in that situation. So, like, let's say God wants to get you into a new house. He wants your mindset to also match the blessing that He has prepared for you. You see what I'm saying? So instead of trying to run away from everything, sometimes you have to sit back and ask God and pray and think about, maybe I need to change. Maybe, because Facebook really isn't hurting anybody or whatever, but it's us. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the social media. That's just a social media site, right? But it's how we operate on it, how we think, and how we handle ourselves with it. You know what I'm saying? We have enough strength, I believe, to tell ourselves to not get on social media when we first wake up in the morning, or don't spend so much time on it during the day or whatever. But we have to take that power back, because it's going to try to tell us, like, something in our brain is like, check this, don't miss out on this. But we have to get to a point where we say, no, I am not going to get on this first thing in the morning, or I'm not going to spend so much time on this. There has to be a point where you decide, like, I'm not going to get on this. And it seems very simple, but I also know it's not as easy as it looks. You know, I've been addicted to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all this kind of stuff. But there has to come a point where we realize it is us and not the circumstance. So this doesn't apply to everything, but this is just what I'm realizing at this stage in my life. And when it comes down to Facebook, like, instead of running or trying to delete Facebook, I need to delete the mindset that I have in my head that I need likes. I need to delete the mindset in my head that I have where it's like people don't care, or people care about this instead, or I need to delete the jealousy that I feel about it. And once I can figure out how to get rid of all of these emotions, then Facebook will just be Facebook. It'll be what it's actually intended to do. But until I get to that point, Facebook or social media will always get on my nerves or whatever. But I feel like God is telling me I have to overcome the situation that I'm feeling inside of me, as opposed to just trying to get rid of the situation itself, if that makes sense. So yeah, I know I just said a whole lot. I know I was all over the place trying to give y'all a backstory and telling y'all what I learned now, but let me know in the comments if what I said makes sense and if you got anything out of what I'm saying, because in my head, I know what God was trying to show me, and I hope that I was able to explain it. But as I was explaining it, I realized it was a lot deeper than just this most recent time. It's been an ongoing situation. But leave in the comments if you get what I'm saying. Leave in the comments your relationship with social media, if you love or hate it, if you spend more time on social media than you do with God. And yeah, let's just talk about it. The next episode is actually episode 20. So if you have any questions that you would like for me to answer, I would love to answer those questions. So also leave in the comment section if you want any questions that you want me to answer. I will answer it truthfully. And yeah, I love y'all, and I will see y'all next Monday. Peace.